So it gives me great pleasure today to introduce John Brookfield, who is 65 years young. And if you don't know who John is, he's a multiple world record holder in nail bending, card tearing, and pulling semi-trucks, or as we would call them, is Arctic lorries over here. So which weighed, I do believe, 40,000 pounds. Is that right, John?
Yeah, 40,000
Yeah.
pounds for a mile.
For how long did that take you?
My fastest time, let's see, I pulled 40,000 pounds in 1 mile, and the last quarter mile was a little bit uphill. It was 50 minutes and 54 seconds was my best time.
Wow, wow. So, and you've also written multiple books and programs such as the Chain Reaction Program and Beyond Bodyweight. But you're probably most famous for and well known for is the battling ropes. And so, starting with the battling ropes, where did the idea come from? What made you think of that? This
No, I appreciate that, Claire. Thank you for having me today. But probably maybe 16 years ago, I was doing these world records myself, nail bending and kettlebell, work capacity, all kinds of kind of work capacity stuff. And to be honest with you, I knew there was a better way for someone could sustain physically and mentally. If you look at all, I'm not a big research guy, but you look at all the research, it's not, it's intervals, but I knew someone could sustain over a long period of time. So to be honest with you, I actually prayed, and in about an hour, God took me to the flow of water. If you think about how powerful like water is in a river, or basically coming in at the ocean, so it's relaxed but powerful, right? It's nonstop, but it also flows relaxed. So I started mimicking the flow of water basically with those ropes. Okay, and then I was using that, and I did it for about a year myself before I showed a human being. But I found by doing that, Claire, basically physically and mentally, I could sustain much longer. So it actually helped with all the records I was doing, and that's how the rope started. I actually developed, I prayed, and God revealed it for me, and I brought it for myself, and I started showing other people, and everybody loved it.
So, what are you finding the benefits for other people as well as yourself of using the ropes?
But what we've kind of found, myself, but also with kinesiology, the study of movement, some of the doctors over here have kind of studied it from the beginning. And what they've basically found, velocity, there's 7 different concepts to the ropes, but the one people have always seen is just where they're moving the waves, like the flow of water, right? And so to be able to do that, velocity is strength and speed together. Okay. So the user gets stronger, but also faster. And we've also found, if you picture how fast someone's moving, if you're thinking about push-ups or kettlebells or lifting, there's kind of like a lull in the action, right? Like if you snatch a kettlebell, and then as that kettlebell goes back, there's a lull in the action physically and mentally. But with the ropes, it's nonstop.
Yeah.
So your circulation inside your body, just like a river, is also moving faster. So there's a lot more circulation being flowing. So the results are huge.
So so watching on YouTube, so the University of YouTube and Instagram and stuff, and watching people using these ropes, what do you see as the biggest mistake that most people are making?
Pretty much, I always see it, and even some of my coaches that I've certified, I've caught them doing this a few times. And people are people, but they'll pull the ropes back like with a lot of tension, right?
Yeah.
Basically, where they step back too far. So the whole point is having enough rope on the ground that you can create waves. And
Yeah.
they've got so much body tension, they're not really even able to create the waves.
Yeah.
And then
So
also you get people like leaning, you want to be able to put your body in a position where an individual person came up and pushed you, you wouldn't lose your balance. So you want to be balanced, not bent over really far, not leaning back. Just get a good athletic stance, basically like you'd use in any sport, defensively or offensively, and have a little bit of slack in that rope where you can actually move those waves.
yeah. So do you find it's quite it's really kind on the joints and it allows that movement and the flow of the movement, so it's a bit more sort of like loosey-goosey and using all the body?
Oh, absolutely. There's some famous physical therapist over here, Claire, that actually uses to rehab people's shoulders.
Oh,
And
right.
here's why the ropes are so safe. It's so simple, people don't realize it.
Mm.
So, the ropes, you're completely imposing your will on the ropes. Okay. The ropes can't impose its will on back on you. So let's say we're creating a wave, right? The second we stop, or the twinkling of an eye, we stop that wave, it stops too.
Yeah.
Where like another, kettlebell, those types of, or stone, it imposes will back on you, but you're completely in control piloting that plane.
Yeah.
So if somebody has obviously you don't want to do it with a rotator cuff tear, but my point is your body's only going to put out enough force your body going to be able to do.
Yeah.
And so it rehab shoulders quite well, but there's no way that rope can impose its will back on you. So it's very, very safe. And even children like it because they see it as playing. They don't
Yeah.
really see it as that drudgery. They see it as playing. So it's user friendly for all human beings.
Yeah. And I suppose with that, like if you're doing the circles and stuff, it's actually getting that full range of movement round and getting everything to move. Otherwise, you're not going to create all the
Exactly. So
circles.
anything you can do with your arms and hands, you can do with the ropes. I mean,
Yeah.
absolutely any kind of flow. And matter of fact, if you're quite coordinated, I don't teach this a lot, but sometimes when people get advanced in the training, I have one arm doing something and the other arm doing the other thing with the ropes. So even
Probably
multiple
not for
tasks.
me.
Yeah, yeah. So my point is anything your hands and arms can do, you can do with the flow of those
Yeah,
ropes.
yeah. I think as well, what when you're looking on people's training on social media and stuff, they all just seem to do this, but the waves, but really, really tight and not flowing. And they don't seem to realize that there is so much more versatility of
Oh
how
yeah.
you can use these, and sometimes we just need guiding into
Exactly. Yeah.
more movement. So you've actually have this now you've made it as an online course as well, haven't you? So it's accessible to everybody that hasn't got full access to you in person.
Yeah, it's actually extremely, and I'm not boasting, it's extremely well put together course. So basically, it's got a huge video library of all the different concepts, all the different exercises. It even shows people how to train partners, team groups, and units. Because if you're approaching, let's say, a rugby team or military, unit or something like that, and they love the ropes, but the first thing they're going to say to you, the leader, is, "How can I train 30 or 40, people out here in the field?"
Yeah.
So we show people how to train individuals, but also how to take, in the middle of nowhere, a soccer team and train a bunch of individuals. And then it's got a very, very good manual that comes along with the video library, and even about an hour of kinesiology research studies in there as well.
Oh wow. Yeah. So do you use the ropes a lot in your own training as well?
Quite a bit, yeah. I tend to use them more for training people, but yes, I do. And then
Yeah.
with that course, it's structured for any human being too, and obviously it's something that a professional coach can use. But
Yeah.
it's something like, someone training in their backyard, or someone likes to just work out. It's made for anybody, really. That course.
Yeah. And you don't really need, it's a bit like a kettlebell, isn't it? Really versatile, one piece of equipment,
Yeah,
your
very
body.
very progressive. Like a novice can start with it, or like a world class Olympic athlete. Anybody with the ropes, because there's no cap. You can't master the ropes.
Yeah, I've got to say, when I was looking through the course that you kindly sent to me and had a look through it, I was actually really intrigued. I mean, I've used ropes before, but again, I confess I was that and probably a bit too tight and stuff like that. But it made me actually think a little bit more carefully about how I could utilize these into my own gym, even into my own training and things like that. And I think people would be very surprised when they actually look at the course, and the detail of it is really, really valuable. So you've also you've got a new course coming out called Rise and Restore, that's based around breathing. Now, I was going to ask you the benefits of breathing, but again, try not doing it. It's not going to go well. But I think within training and within life in general, people we don't breathe functionally, and I think that it's part of when I'm teaching my students. It was like, it's to do with flexibility, mobility, stability, strength, health, everything. And it's like, so tell me a little bit more about one, breathing correctly, but what your course is going into.
Well, and here's where it's different. And don't get me wrong, all the other, all the breathing techniques, the gurus out there, yoga and everything, I
Mm,
applaud them because they are teaching people how to be more conscious of their breath. So
mm,
great stuff there. But here's the difference, because and no one else is doing this. Okay, people do teach you how to breathe correctly, which is great, but people don't realize how strong the breathing muscles are. Okay,
mm.
so once I teach someone the foundation how to properly breathe, and
Yeah.
here again, this could be a world class athlete, or Aunt Sarah across the street, because breathing is not a niche market, right? If you can touch our skin, hear our voice, and see us, you're probably breathing. So that we're
Yeah.
talking to everybody out there. So I teach people how to breathe correctly. And then second step is huge. I teach people how to decompress their spine and major organs. And no other system does that. And once we can start to decompress our spine and major organs, our body can work in optimal health. Okay. And then we don't stop there. So those two things are huge within themselves. Okay. But now what I start doing, and this is unlimited, I teach people how to get more breathing space. Their lungs, their breathing muscles get stronger and stronger, where they can keep getting stronger and stronger and expand more, and great mobility and muscle control in that entire region. And then ultimately I teach people, as they keep getting stronger, how to be able to throw their breath around their body in different parts of their body.
Wow.
So basically, I train the breathing muscles like a power lifter would train his body. I mean, a good power lifter is not going to think, well, I can squat 300 pounds now. They might want to be able to squat 1,000 pounds. And see, our breathing muscles are the same way, Claire. It's not just, hey, let's teach people how to tone our breathing muscles. They're very, very powerful. So we want to keep getting them stronger and stronger, more functional and more mobile, because like I said, the first thing we ever do and last thing we do is going to be take a breath.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting when sort of like you look at sort of like babies and their breathing and how well their diaphragms and their bellies move and stuff like that. And then we, as they get older, we stick them behind a desk. How much of an impact is desk work and sitting at a desk having on our breathing?
Well, here's an interesting point when you said that, and I bet most of your listeners and viewers don't know this. They may, but I doubt it, because even most doctors don't know this. And this is, you can actually pull this up. Now, a baby, right, a newborn baby, the first 3 to 5 months of their life, they cannot breathe through their mouth. They can only breathe through the nose.
I did not know that.
That's actually a fact. You can pull it up the first 3 to maybe 5 months. See, that's how God created them, or created us. See, so we're supposed to breathe through our nose. They can't breathe through their mouth. Now, someone may say, well, John, what happens when the baby gets their nose stuffed up and gets a cold, which they do? But see, because our nose, our sinuses, are the greatest humidifier and air purifier. So when you are stuffed up, when you're breathing in through your nose, out through your nose, you're going to be able to just, push pretty much that gunk out, just like a river would push out debris.
So with the sort of like there's sort of like a big thing around about mouth taping and stuff like that. Sounds quite barbaric, taping your mouth at night. I'm a nose breather anyway. So what impact is on sort of adults having of being a mouth breather and unable to breathe through the nose?
Well, here's something. I'm not really a scientific person, but you can find this in research. About 10 years ago, they didn't know what nitric oxide was, which that sounds kind of crazy. Okay. But now, if you go back now, nitric oxide is the number one thing that causes circulation in your body. And of course, like beetroot and supplements like that enhance it. But the best way to create nitric oxide, and this is a fact, is actually breathing through your nose. Okay. So as you breathe through your nose in and out, you create nitric oxide. It opens up and relaxes all your blood vessels, your capillaries. So it's great for blood pressure circulation. And here's the thing, a lot of people, and I'm not throwing stones, but a lot of breathing techniques will teach, okay, let's breathe through our nose and out through our mouth. Okay. But here's what happens. The science knows now when we breathe through our mouth, there's zero nitric oxide flowing, zero. That's a fact. That's not me just talking. So it'd be like if we're driving a Ford Mustang or some vehicle down the interstate at 80 miles an hour, it'd be like, okay, it's flowing on with the gasoline, and breathing through. Then we open our mouth. It's like tapping on the brakes, basically. So we want to, but answer your question, as we constantly get used to our nervous system to breathing in and out through our nose. Most likely because your nervous system is now used to it. When you fall asleep, you're probably going to breathe through your nose most of the time anyway.
So would you sort of like during exercise when we've got the thing of the talk test, which I cheat the talk test, so I don't do. I actually take my breathing down to breathing calmly, nasal breathing if I'm doing snatches or anything like that. So what's the benefits of people sort of like going out and say they're going to do a run and doing it in sort of like the nasal breathing? Is that something they really need to train towards?
I think so. And see, it takes a while to really get used to doing that all the time. Obviously, the average person can walk around their house probably, and like that. But when you start getting into exercise like running or cycling, it takes a while to get used to be able to constantly in, through your nose. So it took me a while, but to be honest with you now, no matter how hard I go on a bicycle or climbing up huge mountainsides, now I can always breathe through my nose, and the oxygenation is much better once you get used to it.
Yeah. So you was telling me some interesting things last week when we were chatting about you going out on the bike and what your breath rate is. Do you mind sharing that?
Yeah, this is something, this is something I'll share. It's very interesting. Now, this is not a great for you, John, a chest beating thing, okay? But what I can do now, I can sit down. Well, actually, I started where I would sit down for 20 minutes, just relax. And,
Yeah.
and I would take 20 breaths in 20 minutes with no breath holds. I would take just kind of like a nice, not like a balloon, just a nice little inhale. And then I got to the point of this, I just started slowly. Then I could breathe out, exhale for about 60 seconds.
Hmm.
And then without gasping for air or anything, I would immediately go back into that. So I got where I could take 20 breaths in 20 minutes.
Wow.
And now I can go out, not like a huge sprint on my bicycle, Claire, or like you just all out, but I can go out like in a nice fitness ride, and I can take about 20 breaths in 20 minutes. Um, Now, but here's the thing, this is not like, okay, John, great for you, but here's the point, is the system I'm teaching, I could teach a lot of other people to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Because what happens is those muscles get so strong and so controlled, basically like that, they're able to do that because now we're taking good breathing and we're building up those muscles, and we keep creating more breathing space, decompressing everything where they can just expand, keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Now, does the average person need to do that? Probably not. I mean, there's benefits there, but my point is, like, when you start doing that, you'll notice a lot more mental clarity. I mean, almost everything, because breathing affects not only your physical body, it's spiritual and mental as well.
So with you, so like when you were saying about the 20 breaths in 20 minutes, what's your heart rate at that point? Have you taken your heart rate?
Well, here's something very interesting. I'm not one of these guys that wears, the heart. I don't normally do the heart rate monitor. Nothing wrong with that. I just don't normally do that
Yeah.
because people of old didn't do that. You know what I mean? They didn't know what a heart rate was.
Yeah.
But I have found doing that, basically, my heart rate, I do check it from time to time. It doesn't go up much
Mm.
because, see, once again, with the nasal breathing and that type of breathing, see, your nervous system, right? It stays relaxed.
Yeah.
Now, it's not asleep, it's ready to move, but your nervous system stays relaxed during that time. So it keeps that heart rate low and under control.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, at my fittest, I had to go to doctors and they were doing a check. And I think my resting heart rate sat in a doctor's surgery was about 41 or 42, something like that. And they were like, they were panicking. I went, I'm fit. I'm not anymore. I was, but yeah, it's something I've never really struggled on. But it's very interesting when you're watching people how much they use their neck in breathing. So, is there one tip just for this video that you would give people to teach them to recruit the diaphragm a bit more and breathe a little bit more correctly that they can do without giving too much away?
No, and here's something too, and this is something I've talked to some guys that's very big on the breathing techniques now. And you can try this out with anybody. I don't care if it's a world-class cyclist, or I'm going to pick on Aunt Sarah one more time again. People always talk about the belly breathing, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And the belly breathing is good, activating the diaphragm. But here's what you'll find, and I'll guarantee you this. You can take anybody, even people that don't know what a diaphragm is, okay?
yeah.
They don't know what one even is. And if you have them breathe through their nose and particularly put their tongue on the roof of their mouth, the
Mhm.
diaphragm will naturally take care of itself. If we had 100 people in the room right now, all kinds of people, walking around the grocery store, Walmart, or whatever you have over
Mm.
there, we could take 100 people and say, okay, unless they've got some extreme medical issue. I mean, I'm talking about extreme, but the average person,
Yeah.
have them close their mouth, breathe through the nose, and put their tongue on the roof of their mouth. Every one of those people, Claire, their diaphragm will naturally flow in the right position.
And I suppose as well, if you calm the breathing down, they can recruit breathe deeper. That's
Exactly.
going to lower blood pressure. It's going to have a huge impact on stress, on blood
Exactly.
pressure and stuff like that.
Because see, your nervous system doesn't know if you're getting charged by a Bengal tiger or you're laying on the beach unless you
Mm,
give it input. And a story I like to explain, it was in the Bible where Jesus, people familiar with the story a lot of times, where Jesus and the apostles, they were going across the sea. Okay. And the place that, here's what's interesting, and that physically happened, but there's a very powerful message in there also mentally too.
mm,
Once again, that physically happened, of course, but they were going to a place called Capernaum. Okay. And Capernaum in Hebrew means the place of rest and relaxation.
mm,
Okay, so the Lord was showing us this, and see, Jesus was sleeping under at the bottom of the boat during the storm, and the apostles got very fearful. Now he was sleeping during the storm because to him there was no storm. But here's what happened. Here's the tip I want to give everybody. Okay, when he came up, it said that the wind was really howling and very, very powerful, the wind, okay? And
mm,
then the waves were blowing very, very, really rolling, okay? And so Jesus rebuked and stopped the wind, not the waves. Okay. So
mm,
when he stopped the wind, the waves calmed down. So the point is, see our breath, right, is the wind,
mm.
and it controls the waves, which is our blood, our circulatory system, and our heartbeat.
I like that analogy. It actually does make you think, doesn't it?
Yeah,
So,
no, it's very, very true. Like I said, so our breath here again, that the breath is the wind, and then the waves, the water flow is our circulatory system and our heartbeat.
yeah.
It
So
controls. That's a very, very powerful tip that the Lord gave there. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And sort of like, I think I touched on it last week when we was chatting about the ladies that I work with pelvic floor issues. The first thing that I actually really go to is the breathing, because usually I can guarantee ladies, well, even gentlemen do have problems with, I've been working with a few guys that have had prostate operations and stuff like that. I think that teaching them to breathe and obviously pelvic floor and diaphragm work together. So again, it's something really is that simple as putting the tongue behind the teeth and actually relaxing and not really having to think too much about it. It would probably be a really powerful way of
Well,
getting.
I won't mention the person's name out of professionalism. He probably wouldn't mind me doing it, but I'm not going to do it. But there's a military commander over here in the U.S., and he's out of the service now because he was blown up. He had a whole bunch of brain surgeries. He was blown up really, really bad.
Mm,
Long story short, I think he's maybe 55. I'm thinking. And long story short, I've started to work with some of the breathing techniques with him just over Zoom. I've not actually physically met him, and he was telling me for the first time he can completely control his bladder now. He used to have a hard time, while passing his water,
wow.
but since the breathing, he's normal now with
Mm,
all these things. And I haven't taken him too far in the system. So once the nervous system, see, with proper breathing, and you can start to decompress that spine and those major organs, see all this. Remember, because as you well know, the spinal column communicates with the brain.
yeah.
They're like back and forth coaching, see, and the more we're compressed in there, but when we can decompress the spine, those major organs, the body now can heal itself and work in optimal health. And that's basically what happened to him in a nutshell.
Yeah, yeah. So we were going to offer the listeners of this, what was the offer with the two modules?
Oh, okay, yeah, we're talking. So I've created a mini. You're talking about the mini course, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
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 yeah. We've created a mini course basically. The regular Rise Plus the store has 17 modules basically, which is a lot of modules. There's a lot of content there.
yeah,
Long story short, it shows how to do it. It shows how to keep strengthening the breathing muscles, also how to open up the shoulders, chest, and thoracic spine, because a lot of
mm,
people's like this, so they got like a kink toes. I
yeah,
hope I'm pulling it back now, but so there's 17 modules, but the first mini course there's two modules, and then now we're actually this week, Claire, we're actually adding kind of an exhale challenge and a couple kind of workout flows, if you will.
yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
so we're offering that for free basically, and there's three tips in there, and in that free mini course, there's three of them, not two but three, that are basically life changing for most people. So
Oh,
basically, we're going to teach them how to breathe, how to ease into proper breathing, and then we're going to teach them how to start to decompress their spine, and then we're going to start working where they can extend their exhale, and then it'll be a couple guided workouts where it's actually like a flow of water or waves
Yeah.
with someone kind of working them through there. So there's 3 life-changing things just in that little mini course.
So I will look forward to that. I will share that into the show notes. So let's go on to your training. So at 65 years young and obviously an extensive sort of years of training on different levels, from kettlebells, barbells, pulling trucks, and to name just a few. And you're still healthy, still strong, and getting stronger. What have you changed? What have you learned to change over the years with your training, first of all, and then follow on to what are you doing now?
Well, here's where people get a big kick out of this with those 2 courses. So like with I almost didn't bring the online battling ropes course out because one reason. I'm kind of laughing, but I'm trying to remember how many years ago that was, but my waist was about 40 during, you'll see me on the video coaching. My waist was about 40. I was very strong. I could even run 20 miles. And of course,
Yeah.
people knew me for that. But my waist was 40 in that course, but it's about 31 in the breathing course.
Wow.
So basically, I mean, it almost looks like 2 different people. And
Yeah.
so with the breathing, but mostly the breathing, see, I've learned how to decompress and control all those organs. So it's helped me greatly trim down. So it's great for building lean muscle mass too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and God's blessed me at 65. I can do things now I couldn't do when I was 25, 35, or 45. So even though I'm about maybe 50 or 60 pounds lighter, my strength has not went down. So if I'm doing
Wow.
something like if I'm trying to do 1-arm pull-ups or something on the rings, my strength was as good at that body weight. So now it's much easier for things like that.
Yeah, yeah. It is an advantage on pull-ups, I've got to say. Dropping a few pounds does make it so much easier. So how much of a emphasis do you pay on recovery? How much has your recovery time had to change? I mean, myself, I'm 52, and I do find I need a little bit longer to recover, whereas I used to do 7 days a week on the weights. It's not happening that much now.
I do about 2 hours a day. I mean, I don't time it. I'll go out maybe bicycling, not motorcycling, but bicycle. I'll
Yeah.
ride about an hour and 10 minutes, probably 5 times a week, and then I'll do about an hour every other day, like ring training, like Olympic rings,
Yeah.
some rope climbing, things like that, and kind of some oddball stuff. It'd be hard to explain it, but about
Yeah.
2 hours a day.
Yeah.
Now, here's something I want to really explain because as people, and you'll have people 25 years old saying this sometime to you. They don't have to be an older person.
Mm.
But people always start saying, yeah, John, but talk about youthfulness, but I've had this back thing, my knees and stuff like that. But see, God says he renews our youth like the eagles, right? And so get this now, here's the thing people miss. You can't have something renewed unless you've lost it.
That's
You see
true.
what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, what I teach, like with the Strong and Wise, is strongandwise.com, but there's courses in there on the breathing, and there'll be a lot of like on hip mobility and kind of leadership stuff. But we help them with strength, wisdom, and
Mm.
longevity, right? Now
Yeah.
think about it though. So wisdom's the key because strength and longevity cannot sustain itself, Claire, without wisdom,
Mm. Yeah.
right? As strong as Samson was, he died about at 36 years old.
Yeah.
So my point, wisdom is what makes us stronger, but also sustains that for longevity. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, sort of looking at my career was bodybuilding, sort of like, and in my late 20s, early 30s, I was in a lot of pain. Look good,
Yeah.
but it's just not functional. It's not sustainable. And I move better now in my 50s than what I ever did then. And I'm not in pain and move better. And it's like things that back then, do I regret anything I've done? Absolutely not. But I wish I knew back then what I know now. And I think what I would tell my younger self is your body's got to last a lifetime, and it's up to you what state it ends up in to an extent. So what would you tell your younger self?
Well, I'm glad because this is interesting too, because like I said, but this is, I've always had a pretty good spine. I'm 65 years old, and
Mm.
I would go a couple times a year just kind of to do it. Like a chiropractor friend of mine would kind of adjust me and kind of check me out.
Yeah.
But here's an interesting statistic, and this is actually I went back about 8 years ago, I had my lumbar spine, x-rayed,
Mm.
and I went back about maybe 7 or 8 months ago and redid it. And both chiropractors, not together, they said your spine's better now than it was 8 years ago.
Wow.
And I asked both of them, not together. I said, if you didn't know, guys, how old do you think that spine is?
Mm.
One of them said 30, one said 35.
Wow.
That's what they would have they would have thought. But here's the thing. Basically, this breathing techniques that we're talking about, as it starts to decompress and elongate your spine a little bit. See, those discs start to open up, and then oxygen, hydration, and nutrition can get in there, and it can start to rehab that spine. But
Yeah.
here again, that's not just, okay, great job, John. This is something the average person can do. I don't get out of line like I used to, but if I do get out of line, I can actually pull myself back in line with my own breath.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So I mean, to have sort of like, no serious degeneration, because it seems to be an accepted thing nowadays. I mean, working with general population and athletes alike, I tend to find, well, I've got degeneration, but you expect it. And I'm like, well, you might get a little bit of wear and tear, but to be actually degenerating is quite
Yeah, yeah. You don't
significant.
want to, just because someone says that, as a man believes in his heart, so he becomes. The
Mm.
Bible says. So you don't want to necessarily follow that, because we can renew ourselves. The body can heal itself.
Yeah.
And picture this, if you will, too, if this makes sense, and stop me if it doesn't. But this is, see, so combining muscle control of the breathing muscles, okay,
Yeah.
with the actual wind of the breath. Picture like what a sapling is,
Yeah.
like a small, we call it a sapling here. I'm assuming you do too.
Yeah.
So if there's a small tree in your yard, or even a big one sometimes, and if it's out of line or twisted, the landscapers will go out there sometimes, or maybe you have yourself, and you pull it back in line with a rope, right?
Yeah.
So we know with that rope and that, we can pull that tree back in position. And what else will move that tree too? A strong wind will, right?
Mm.
Okay. So picture now, the sapling is our spine,
Yeah.
and our hips and our spine. So there's two things that can inside our body can move out. Okay. The landscapers aren't inside, but see, our the muscle control and strength of our ligaments, and tendons and muscles, with the proper muscle control, can put that back in line, and so can the wind, which is our breath.
Yeah.
So we can actually adjust our own spine, like, and actually help with that muscle control of the breathing muscles, and actually that wind, our breath inside our body.
Yeah. So yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stop you right there, but I'm definitely going to have you back on for an interview. So where can people find you? So your website, and to either contact you or to follow you on social media, if you've got a social media presence as
Yeah, I
well.
do. So the new website, the new platform is Strong and Wise. Of course, the www dot, but it's the word strong and then the letter N, not and. So it's strong, then the letter N, wise.com, strongandwise.com.
Yeah, I'll share that into the notes as well. So
And like in my email in there, my email is john@powerropes.com, and you'll find that. But I'm very, very open to people contacting me. So don't hesitate to contact me if I can help you in any way. I do a lot. I also do like a lot. I like to do like a lot of kind of, I don't want to use really word mentorship, but I like to do like a lot of private or group Zooms where I
yeah,
can take the individual, whether it's a great athlete or somebody up in age, and kind of work out a program and help them at their own level.
yeah, brilliant. Well, I've got to say thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And it's been an absolute pleasure. And I hope everybody, you take us up on the offer of the 2 parts, the module of the breathing course.
Yeah, give me about a week. Like I said, it's ready to go, but we're adding just a couple little things. I think it'll make it a little bit, with a little bit of light workouts, a little bit of guided stuff where there'll be water flowing, and somebody kind of guiding you through the breathing. But it'll help reduce stress, help athleticism. Because once again, remember, breathing is not a niche market.
Exactly. So, and it's been an absolute pleasure, John. So, John,
Thank you.
Battling Ropes.
Thank you.